Welcome back to Find Your Alpha. In this episode, we're going to be talking about pre-birth paternity tests and why these tests are a must for every pregnancy. First of all, what is a pre-birth paternity test? A pre-birth paternity test, or an NIPT, a non-invasive paternity test, is a lab test that is done to confirm the birth father of a child. The test is conducted by swabbing the cheek of the suspected father and drawing blood from the mother. Fetal tissue in the woman's blood is then compared with the DNA of the father. The tests are very accurate, with results coming back at either 0% or 99%. Now, there's many people who don't even realize that there is a pre-birth paternity test available. Many folks just believe that, hey, you have to wait until after the baby is born, and then you do kind of a traditional DNA test. But this test is available, and I strongly recommend it for every pregnancy, whether it's with a girlfriend or even a wife, just to confirm that you are the father. Why should it be done for every pregnancy? Over 33% of post-birth DNA tests are coming back with negative results. Now think about that. These are situations where typically a father maybe has some suspicion or just wants to confirm that he is the father of a child, does a DNA test, and 33% of those are failing. And that is the worst crushing blow, as we'll talk about here in a couple of sentences. If women have nothing to worry about, then they should have no problem taking the test. That's a big red flag. If you say, hey, I want to have a paternity test done because, hey, I'm excited about being a father or a father again, and I just want to have that closure. And if the wife or the girlfriend brings up a lot of reasons why that shouldn't be done, that's a red flag, because they should have no problem letting you get clarity as to whether you're the father or not, if they have nothing to hide. The final one here is the most important. And this is something that you really have to consider. The pain of finding out a child is not yours somewhere down the line is one of the most psychologically damaging events a man can endure. Don't put yourself through this. So just think about this. Let's say, for instance, you were in a situation where your wife or girlfriend had an affair, but she told you, hey, the child was yours, and you didn't know about this affair. And that child is born, and you love that child. It's your child. You're taking care of it. And then 6, 7, 10, 15 years, 20 years down the road, maybe the child says, hey, I want to do one of these Ancestry.com or 23andMe and get, kind of my heritage of my family. And then the results come back showing you're not the father. Number one, it's going to crush you. And it's going to be so psychologically damaging that will affect you your entire life. Not only that, it's going to be psychologically destructive to the child, who now has found out that you're not their biological father. Yeah, you are their dad. You've raised them, you love them, and you're always going to love them. But to find out that the man that I thought was my father is not my father is just crushing to a child. So this is why it's so important to have these DNA tests done. In particular, the pre-birth DNA test, because you can find out right away. Hey, the woman says, hey, I'm pregnant. Well, as soon as she is pregnant, basically, you can have one of these tests done, I think shortly thereafter, to confirm whether the child is yours or not. Okay, now it's time for a story. And this is a story that's applicable to this subject matter. And the title of the story is, I found out in the delivery room, the child my fiancée just birthed is not mine. And this is a story, as you'll see, of a guy who was with a woman for quite some time. They had been getting along terrifically. They found out shortly after moving in together that she was pregnant. This guy was so excited, as was his fiancée. They went out. They did all the preparations for the birth of the child, and then lo and behold, in the delivery room, he could see by the child's features that this child was not his. So totally devastated him, I'm sure, and you'll see that in the story. And it's a very strong message of support for getting pre-birth paternity tests, a non-invasive paternity test, as it's called, an NIPT, for every pregnancy, whether it's your wife, whether it's your girlfriend, whether it's your mistress. So with that, let's get into the story. This event happened over 5 years ago, and I still have not fully recovered psychologically. See, 5 years, and this is still eating at him. At the time, I, John, was 31, and my girlfriend, Lisa, was 29, and had been in a loving, monogamous relationship for 3 years, or so he thought. We met at a cocktail reception that was held at a local art museum. Neither of us liked modern art, but attended the reception with friends, and we really hit it off. We started casually dating and soon became exclusive as we really clicked. About a year into our relationship, Lisa asked if we could move in together, as she really wanted to take the next step with me. I told her I wasn't ready to take that step, so we stayed living apart but saw each other at least 6 nights per week, and our love grew deeper. Now, a good sign here is that the woman is, kind of pressing the man in this case to take the next step. It's not the other way around. So this sounds like here, like, hey, this woman was very interested in this guy for one reason or the other. Throughout the next year, Lisa continued to coax me to take the next step, so reluctantly, I did so on our 2nd anniversary, and we moved in together. Everything was going great, and even though we had now been together over 2 years, we were very active and adventurous in the bedroom. So it sounds like, they're still kind of in that honeymoon phase, which really, I say, could go on for as much as 2, sometimes 2.5, 3 years before it really levels off and starts to decline. With things going well, Lisa started dropping hints about getting married and starting a family. Now you saw there, how old she was. So she was getting near what many people call the wall. So she's pushing him, hey, I want to move in together, and when are we going to get married? I told her potentially I saw that with her, but wanted us to use the time living together to see if we were ready to take that next step, which is smart. This guy is playing it pretty smart so far, except he did move in with her pretty quickly, but okay, we'll give him a pass for that. About 3 months into our cohabitating, I got a big surprise. Lisa called me at work to say that she missed her period and she may be pregnant. Now this is a red flag, as you're going to see. This was a surprise since she was on the pill. She swore that she never missed a dose. So I chalked it up that we may be one of those couples in the 9% failure rate for the contraceptive. Now, this guy writes that. I don't know if the failure rate for the pill is that high. To me, that's very concerning. And that's another reason why you should always wear barrier protection, always wear condoms. Because, if there is a high failure rate like that with the pill, you don't want to take that chance. Plus, you don't know if the woman that you're with is truly taking the pill. She may say, yeah, I am, but she may want to get pregnant and may skip a few doses or may not be taking it at all. After I hung up with Lisa, I experienced a range of emotions from fear to excitement. The more I thought about it, though, I became overjoyed about the prospect of being a father. This poor guy, what he's, going to be in for. Driving home that night, I was on cloud 9. And when I got home, I hugged and kissed Lisa and told her how excited I was, and she was happy to hear it. So, they're really celebrating here. Nothing in his mind is wrong. I'm going to be a dad, which is a wonderful feeling. As the weeks went on, Lisa started asking when we might get married. I told her that I was not ready for that now, but it was definitely something we could consider after the birth of our child. She understood, but kept bringing up the subject several times a week, saying how much she wanted to be my wife and spend the rest of her life with me. We spent the next few months prepping for our child and converting our spare bedroom into a state-of-the-art nursery. I spared no expense on the furniture and fixtures, and we were ready for our first child. So just imagine that now. You're all elated, you're gonna have this baby, you're out there buying all kinds of stuff, getting ready for this baby, and really just, are probably one of the happiest times you're gonna experience in your life. Things were going so well for us that at the end of Lisa's 7th month, I got down on one knee and asked her to marry me. So instead of waiting, now this guy is proposing. She cried and yelled, "Yes, yes, yes, I will marry you, John." We were so happy. I told Lisa we can get married at the mayor's office next month and then have a reception after our baby's birth, and she agreed. So they're not getting married immediately, but next month. We had a day scheduled for our wedding, but a few days before the big day, the baby had other plans and Lisa went into labor. So she went into labor about a month early, it looks like. We rushed to the hospital at 4 a.m. and by 8 a.m., Lisa had given birth to a healthy baby boy. I was in the delivery room with Lisa and helped deliver the child. The birth went relatively smoothly, but, now here's the big but, this poor guy. As soon as I saw the baby, I could tell immediately he was not mine. The baby had jet black hair, a deep brown complexion, and appeared to be of Hispanic descent. Both Lisa and I and our extended families are Northern European with light hair and fair skin tones. No one in either of our families are of Hispanic heritage. When the baby was placed in Lisa's arms, I looked at her face, and though she acted as if nothing was wrong, I could tell she was shocked at seeing the baby's features. My heart was beating 200 beats per minute, but I held it together and acted as if nothing was up. Lisa wanted me to hold the baby, which I did, and tears started rolling down my cheeks. I could just imagine that. You see the baby, and yeah, there might be a remote chance that this is my baby, just because of how, the DNA works. And hey, that could have been, maybe there was some Hispanic heritage or, some other heritage way back that now is coming out and presenting, but it's very rare. And this guy breaking down in tears, I can understand it. I can definitely understand it. I held the little guy and was unbelievably sad that he was not mine. But I kept it together and handed him back to Lisa and told her I was going to go out and talk to her parents and my mom and let them know the good news. I went out to the waiting room and broke the news. They proceeded in to see Lisa and the baby. And I told them I need to go for a little walk to settle down after all the excitement. I walked over to a little park area near a stream that runs through the hospital grounds and completely broke down crying. My world had been destroyed. I knew today I would lose both my future wife, actually it is his future wife, and the baby I had so much wanted. Time flew by as I cried my eyes out, and after about 30 minutes, my phone rang and it was my mother. She asked if I was all right, and I said, "I think so." And she said, "Son, I know why you left." I said, "Mom, the baby is not mine." She said, "Son, I know, and I will support you through this, whatever you decide." With that, I composed myself, went to the restroom, washed my face, and headed back into the room. When I came back into the room, it was just Lisa, her parents, and my mom. The baby had been taken to the nursery, and Lisa was exhausted from the birth. I suggested we all give Lisa time to get some well-deserved sleep. As we were walking out, Lisa asked if I could please stay with her, and I said, "Babe, it's best you get some rest without talking." We all went down to the cafeteria and hung out there for a few hours while Lisa rested. When we went back upstairs, I let her parents go into the inn to see if she was up. She was, and they spent about a half hour with her. When they came out, they said Lisa wanted me by her side, so I went in to be with her. Lisa started talking, saying how happy she was, and asked if I was happy. I told her I was happy that she and the baby were healthy. She said, "You seem distant. Is something wrong?" I said, "We need to talk." She said, "Talk about what?" I said, "The baby." She said, "What about the baby?" I replied, "Lisa, the baby is clearly not mine." She said, "It is your baby. Who else's would it be?" I told her, "You tell me." With this, she started sobbing and could not talk. So she knew, she couldn't lie out of this one, because now he could just get a post-birth paternity test, very easy test, and, very quickly determine if it's his or not. I let her cry for what seemed forever, but was actually closer to 10 minutes. After she settled down, I asked, "Who is the father of the child?" She said again, "You are the father." So she's still trying to lie to this guy. Isn't that amazing? How you're caught dead to rights here in a lie, and you're still trying to lie your way out. Unbelievable. Unbelievable what some of these women do. I replied, "Lisa, please don't lie to me." She was silent, glaring straight ahead in a dazed, stupor-like state. She then said, "I'm so sorry, John. I was unfaithful, but I want you to be the baby's father." Now, can you imagine this again? Just like a story I had done last week or the week before, where a woman gets knocked up. I think the last one was a wife gets knocked up and then wants her husband to be, gets knocked up by her lover and wants her husband to be the father to the child. And now here's this woman, this guy's girlfriend or fiancée, I guess, because he had proposed to her. She gets knocked up by another guy and wants him to take responsibility for the child. What are these women thinking? I mean, that is just totally disgusting and the ultimate disrespect. Obviously, she doesn't think much of this man as a man. I mean, it's just totally unacceptable. Man, I ignored that statement and asked, "Who is the father?" She said 8 months ago, her ex came to town and they had a one afternoon stand at our apartment. So again, guys, this is why these pre-birth paternity tests are necessary. You may think, I know pretty much my wife's or my girlfriend's every step over the last year, over the last 2 years. There's been no time for her to have a tryst. Well, it doesn't take much time. In this case, this could have all happened within an hour or less than an hour, man, just a quickie. And look what happens. If the baby had come out with light features, this guy probably would have just said, "Hey, this is my child," and raised the child just as if it was his own. And then somewhere down the line, he would have found out it's not his, destroying both his life and the life of that poor child. As background about her and her ex, she and her ex met while working at a department store, and they were together for over 5 years. So this was a long-term ex. So with that, after hearing this news, whose baby it was, I got up, walked over to the window, and stared at the traffic below. She asked me, "Is our relationship over?" I told her that it was, as there was no way I could ever trust her again. With that, she burst into tears and asked if I could give her another chance. I told her sternly that was not possible. Good for this guy. There's a lot of guys that would have broken down, say, "Oh yeah, I love you. If it was a beautiful woman, you're so beautiful. I'll forgive you. I'll raise this child." I mean, surprisingly, you're thinking, who in the hell would do that? There's a lot of simp beta males out there that would just suck this up and go forward and be miserable for the rest of their lives. But a strong alpha male, a high value male, is not going to put up with this shit. I told her that it was. Okay, I already said that. With that, she burst into tears and asked if I could give her another chance. I told her sternly that was not possible. I then told her she needed to tell our parents about this now. She pleaded with me not to tell them. I told her, Lisa, you must do so, as you will not be coming home to our apartment when you and the baby get discharged tomorrow. So this guy's really laying down the law, and I applaud him for that. It's not his baby. It's not his responsibility. He's the guy, from what I gather, that is paying the lease on the apartment. It's his apartment. So she really has no rights, to be there. She again burst into tears and pleaded. I just said no and went outside to summon her parents. So this guy's not putting up with it, and I don't blame him. As we walked into the room, Lisa's father noticed she had been crying and asked what was wrong. I asked them all to take a seat, which they did. I then said, Lisa, tell them what we just discussed. She started crying and couldn't speak. I then proceeded to explain the situation to our parents. So this guy, even though she's not going forward and is saying, hey, here's what happened, if she's not going to do it, he did it, which I applaud him again for doing that. All three of them, her two parents and his mother, started crying, with her parents crying uncontrollably. Yeah, her parents are crying uncontrollably because now they know, I've got a daughter and I got a grandson, and guess whose responsibility that's going to be? Ours. Okay? So they were probably crying uncontrollably for a good reason. I told Lisa's parents that when she was discharged tomorrow, that she would be coming home with them, and that I would arrange to have all of her personal belongings in the nursery we bought moved to their house. Throughout this conversation, Lisa was crying uncontrollably. I then looked at my mom and said, Mom, let's go. So he's leaving him. He's leaving her. He's leaving her parents. He's basically done with her. And you know what? I say that is the right move. You've got to do that, folks. You've got to do that, men. If something like this ever happens to you, this is how you handle it. Lisa then screamed, John, please don't leave me. I love you. I'm sorry. With that, he and his mother walked out the door, and her parents consoled her. As we were driving from the hospital, Lisa called and said, please, John, don't end our relationship this way. I said, Lisa, I didn't end our relationship. You did. Good comeback, guy. I told her the trust we had is forever broken, and the person I knew and loved is gone. She continued to plead, but I said nothing, eventually telling her I was going to hang up as there was nothing more to say. There isn't. Don't give them the opportunity to keep talking to you and trying to wear you down, and basically, break down your defenses. Cut it off. She told you what happened. Okay, that happened. So I'm out of your life. Go find your ex-lover and your ex-boyfriend and have a relationship with him. The next morning, her father came over with his van, and we loaded all of her belongings and the nursery into the back. I went with him back to their house, helped him unload, and set up the nursery in one of their spare bedrooms. I was devastated. I can imagine. That had to be so hard for him. Lisa's mom asked if there was any way I would reconsider and give her daughter one more chance. See, the mother is not stupid here. She's thinking, hey, this girl is going to be a burden. Even though they love their daughter, I'm sure, and love their granddaughter, they're probably just thoroughly disgusted with her for what she did. And they know this now is going to be their problem. They're going to be raising this kid probably for some time, helping her out. And who knows if anybody will ever come to her rescue as a single mom, because people are getting wise now. Men are getting wise to single moms that, that's an area that you really have to be very careful with, and you really don't want to get into a relationship with a single mom. I politely told her there was not, as I could never trust Lisa again and would never be able to love the child that was the seed of another man. With this, her father drove me back home, where I stayed for the next day crying my eyes out. Throughout the next week, Lisa called and texted me over 100 times, professing her love and asking for another chance. She said she understood that I did not want to marry her now and to be the father of her child, but was now asking if we could just continue to see each other like we were dating. Now, can you imagine that? Again, she's trying a ploy here to weasel back into this poor guy's life. Basically, date me like like I'm just a single mom that you met. I never replied, and eventually the messages stopped. Good for you, guy. Good for you. As you can imagine, this has been the most difficult period in my life. While I have no interest in being part of Lisa or her son's life, I would like to meet him for a beer when he turns 21 and thank him for coming early, which saved me from marrying his mother and further complicating my life. That's a good way to look at it here. The guy's got to have a little humor after going through this ordeal. But think about it, the baby did save him from potentially marrying her, because just think what would have happened. Let's say the baby came at the normal time. Now he's married to this woman, and now he's got to go through a divorce as well as finding out the kid's not his. I mean, that would further devastate him. But at least the kid came early and he didn't have to go through that. So my parting advice and his parting advice to every man out there is to get a pre-birth paternity test with every pregnancy, whether it's your girlfriend, your wife, your mistress, I don't care who it is. If a woman says she's pregnant by you, say, okay, let's get a pre-birth paternity test, an NIPT, a non-invasive paternity test. It will save you a lot of wasted time and a lot of wasted heartache. This poor guy, look at this. He wasted basically 8, almost 9 months, prepping for a child that wasn't his, living a lie with this girlfriend of his. Totally disgusting. I mean, and he can never get those months back. He'll never get that time back. And as you get older, guys, time is your most valuable resource you will find. So again, the advice here is with every pregnancy, insist on a pre-birth paternity test or what is called a non-invasive paternity test. It will save you a lot of grief, aggravation, and devastation psychologically. So if you liked this video and you found it valuable, please like, share, and subscribe. And also add some comments down there. Have you gone through something like this? Do you know of somebody that's gone through something like this? How did they handle it? How did this guy handle it? How do you think this guy handled it? I think he handled it terrifically. He laid down the law. He acted like a real alpha male and addressed the situation appropriately. It's not his problem now. It's her problem, it's her affair partner's problem, her ex's problem, and it's her parents' problem. He needs to have no further contact with this woman, and it looks like, the way he's responded here, he's not going to. So again, thank you for watching the Find Your Alpha channel, and I'll look to talk with you on the next video.